Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about 1971's The Velvet Vampire, directed by Stephanie Rothman. Now, I probably should have double-checked, but I think this might be the first time we're getting a film by a female director. So we have The Velvet Vampire by Stephanie Rothman. Stephanie Rothman had worked a lot with Roger Corman in the past on certain assignments, not necessarily that she was doing full movies for him, but she did work on Bloodbath in 1966. Bloodbath was mainly directed by Jack Hill, but after it was done, Roger Corman brought Stephanie Rothman in because he didn't really like the way the movie ended up, and Stephanie Rothman added this whole vampire aspect to Bloodbath. You can kind of tell that Bloodbath was directed by multiple different people because it's not super cohesive, and actually when she did some additional scenes, she actually used different actors for the same characters. Especially for the main character, so that's a little bit weird. But anyway, Bloodbath was decent. It was kind of like a beatnik horror movie of the 60s, and I thought that was interesting. But anyway, after that, Stephanie Rothman did a few non-horror films, including some exploitation films for the brand new New World Pictures. Roger Corman created New World Pictures after he left AIP. Before that, he had tried things with the film group, and he did Little Shop of Horrors and Beast from Haunted Cave for film group. But before that, he was with AIP, and after film groups kind of didn't work out, he went back to AIP, and then he tried again with New World Pictures. Velvet Vampire is the first horror film produced and distributed by New World Pictures. He actually put it out on a double bill with an Italian film that we already talked about that was called The Castle with the Door of Fire in Italian, and the American version of it was Scream of the Demon Lover. That actually came out in 1970 in Italy, but it was released in the United States in 1971 on a double feature with this, The Velvet Vampire. The other early New World Pictures horror film was I always say this backwards. Beast of the Yellow Night or Night of the Yellow Beast. I think it's Night of the Yellow Beast. Yeah. The Filipino horror film with John Ashley. So that and The Velvet Vampire were the first two New World horror films. Now, what's The Velvet Vampire about? Unfortunately, if you take a look at this poster, you will see a female vampire with prominent fangs holding two severed heads. Sadly, we don't see any severed heads in the movie. We also don't see any fangs in the movie unless I missed them. I don't think there's any fangs in the movie. They probably didn't have the budget for that. It is a fairly low budget film. It's filmed mostly in the Mojave Desert in Southern California and also partially in Los Angeles. The film's plot is not too deep. It's about a female vampire who seduces a man who has a girlfriend, and she also tries to seduce the girlfriend. Her name, or at least her last name, now I'm forgetting her first name, but her last name is Le Fanu. That is a reference to Sheridan Le Fanu, who wrote the first vampire novel that I really know of, Carmilla, which came out like 20 years before Dracula, which, if you've watched my other videos, you know all about that because they turned it into the movie The Vampire Lovers, which was one of my earliest videos. Anyway, this is kind of like a Carmilla story, except it's not actually Carmilla. It's this woman, and she basically the whole film is just her trying to seduce this couple, and she succeeds with the man, and the woman kind of resists her. That's pretty much it. The movie was okay. I like that it was shot out in the desert. I was looking up the Mojave Desert, and some of you may know that it's home to the Joshua Tree, Joshua Tree only grows in the Mojave Desert. That's pretty cool. The acting in this is a little rocky. Honestly, the girl who is being seduced is not that great. Also, I read that Stephanie Rothman tried to put humor in it to make it stand out from all the other vampire films coming out at the time. And although there were a few one-liners that I did laugh at, they seemed out of place in the film. Overall, I'd give this one a 6 out of 10, and that's like barely a 6 out of 10, almost a 5 out of 10. But it is a coherent story, and I don't know, it's okay. I think if you haven't seen a lot of other vampire movies, this might stick out to you, but if you have, then it's really not going to leave an impact in your mind, I don't think. Kind of like Let's Scare Jessica to Death. I know a lot of people who think that Let's Scare Jessica to Death is like some kind of amazing, unique film. And if you watch other films of the era, it's really not, in my opinion. So, 6 out of 10. I'm going to give you a quick spoiler, so if you haven't seen it yet, you can turn it off now. But the one thing I thought was kind of interesting at the end, and not in the best way interesting, basically the girl goes back to Los Angeles, and the vampire woman chases her, and when she does, the girl, sunlight slightly weakens her, okay? She does not need to sleep during the day. She's awake pretty much all the time. Actually, she does talk about sleeping at night, although we don't see it. So the sunlight thing is not a big deal. She's also able to feel pain because the girl stabs her through the hand one time, and she kind of freaks out about it. So that's a little bit... She's a very, very vulnerable vampire, except she can go out in the sun. And then at the end of it, she's chasing the girl, and there's like this big cross right outside. And when she sees it, she like kind of freaks out. And then the girl like grabs, like there's like this area where they're selling all these crosses, which is very convenient. She grabs one and she throws it to a stranger and she goes, "Help me!" And the stranger just like catches it. And then she gets all these crosses and like passes them out to strangers. And then all these strangers like surround the vampire and like show her the crosses. And then they like take off her cloak so that the sun can make her weaker. And then she kind of like yells in the like dirt. And then it's pretty much over. Like, you don't really see her die. She doesn't like wither away. There's no smoke. There's no melting. She doesn't explode. She doesn't even totally die. Like, it's just like assumed that she got killed by like too much stress from the crosses, I guess. Anyway, that's enough for this one. New World Pictures is great. Lots of amazing movies came out on New World Pictures. But this one is not the strongest effort. Okay, we'll see you next time.